I am going to talk about phonetics. Dear students, you would be listening to phonology of English language. Meanwhile, it is important for you to know the difference between the terms phonology and phonetics. Phonetics is the scientific study of speech sounds in all languages. Phonology is the scientific study of speech sounds in a particular language, that is, how speech sounds are produced, transmitted and received. The objective of this program is to make you familiarize with the different stages of speech production. So, you have to understand how these speech sounds are produced. As you know very well, the air that we breathe out comes out of lungs. Before it gets into outer atmosphere, various organs in our body convert it into speech sounds. Such organs are known as organs of speech. These organs can be divided into three groups. 1. Respiratory system, 2. Phonatory system, and 3. Articulatory system. Now, we shall discuss the respiratory system in detail. Respiratory system comprises the muscles of chest, lungs, and windpipe. Lungs are spongy bodies. It plays an important role in generating breath energy. As you all know very well, that the air that we breathe out is converted into speech sounds. That particular airstream is set in motion by lungs. So, sounds produced in such a way are known as pulmonic sounds. That is, for pulmonic sounds, lungs is the initiator of the airstream. Moreover, the air that is breathed out is converted into speech sounds. Hence, the aggressive air is important for the production of speech sounds. Hence, we can say English sounds are aggressive sounds. Meanwhile, there are some languages in which sounds are produced when aggressive air is converted into speech sounds. So, such sounds are known as ingressive sounds. But in English, all sounds are pulmonic aggressive sounds. Next, phonatory system. Phonatory system comprises larynx. Larynx is situated at the top of the windpipe. In the larynx are situated a pair of lip-like structures known as vocal cords. They are placed horizontally front to back. It can be opened or closed. The opening between vocal cords is known as glottis. When the glottis is opening position, the air from the lungs can pass through this open glottis without any friction. As a result, there will be no vibration in the vocal cords. So, sounds produced without vibration in the vocal cords is known as voiceless sounds. But at the same time, when the glottis is in narrow position, the air from the lungs causes friction in the vocal cords. As a result, vocal cords vibrate. So, sounds produced with the vibration of vocal cords is known as voiced sound. So, the vibration of these vocal cords is important for another purpose also. The rate at which vocal cords vibrate determines the frequency of vibration. The frequency of vibration, on the other hand, determines the pitch of your voice. Next, articulatory system. Articulatory system comprises roof of the mouth, tongue, teeth, lips and nose. Roof of the mouth. For the sake of our convenience, the roof of the mouth is divided into teeth-rich, hard palate, soft palate, and uvula. The part of the roof of the mouth immediately after this upper front teeth is known as teeth-rich or alveolar-rich. Immediately after this teeth-rich, the roof of the mouth becomes hard and bony, and this part of the roof of the mouth is known as hard palate. This is in concave shape. Immediately after this hard palate, the roof of the mouth becomes soft and fleshy, and this part of the roof of the mouth is known as soft palate. The extreme end is known as uvula. Next, tongue. Tongue is an important organ for the production of so many sounds. For the sake of our convenience, we divide the tongue into tip, blade, front, back, and root. The extreme edge of the tongue is known as tip. The part of the tongue opposite the teeth ridge is known as blade when the tongue is at resting position. The part of the tongue opposite the hard palate is known as front. And the part of the tongue opposite the soft palate is known as back. And the extreme end or beyond the back is root. Next, lips. Lips play an important role in the production of some consonant sounds like m, b, p. So during the articulation of vowels, they play an active role because vowels are described in terms of the position of the lips and tongue. So we have to say whether the lips are in rounded position or unrounded position while you describe vowels. Next, nose. During the articulation of nasal sounds, the soft palate is lowered, and as a result, the air from the lungs passes through the nasal cavity and escapes through the nose. As a result, nasal sounds are produced. For example, nasal sounds such as m, n, ng are produced in such a way. So, knowledge of organs of speech will be helpful to you to describe vowels and consonant sounds in English. Now, let us classify speech sounds. English sounds are classified into two categories, vowels and consonants. Vowels are continuous voiced sound produced without any obstruction in the speech tract. That is, during the articulation of vowels, there is no closure or narrowing. That is, they are not accompanied by any closure or narrowing. That is, they are articulated without any obstruction in the speech tract. Consonants are not like that. Consonants are produced with obstruction. That means they are accompanied by either closure or narrowing in the speech tract. Technically, these two terms are known as vocoids and contoids. Vowels. Vowels are classified into two major categories, pure vowels and diphthongs. During the articulation of pure vowels, the tongue remains stationary. During the articulation of diphthongs, the tongue changes its character. That is, the tongue takes one position for the first element and another position for the second element. As a result, the tongue glides from one position to another position. In received pronunciation, we have 8 pure vowels and 12 pure vowels and 8 diphthongs. So, hereafter you have to describe the pure vowels. Vowels are described in terms of the position of the tongue and the position of the lips. The position of the lips should be described in such a way whether it is in rounded position or in unrounded position. When you describe the position of the tongue, you have to tell which part of the tongue is raised, whether it is front, back or center, and the height to which it is raised also should be narrated. So in order to assess the relative position of the tongue, International Phonetic Association devised a vowel scale. First, what they did, by making maximum close approximation and minimum close approximation, they identified the vowel area, the area in which the vowels are produced. Again, they divided this vowel area into equal 3 parts. As a result, they got 8 points. For example, front close, front half close, front half open, front open, back close, back half close, back half open, back open. And these 8 positions were represented by 8 vowels. And these 8 vowels are known as cardinal vowels. And these cardinal vowels are used to assess the relative position of any vowel in any language. Interestingly, no vowel in English is a cardinal vowel. Hereafter, let me describe the pure vowels. First, E. During the articulation of this vowel, front of the tongue is raised to a position almost near close. The lips are unrounded. It can occur initially, medially, and finally in verse. For example, east, seen, he. Next, E. During the articulation of this vowel E, front of the tongue is raised just above half close position. The lips are unrounded. It can occur initially, medially, and finally in verse. For example, it, hit, and duty. A. During the articulation of this vowel A, front of the tongue is raised to a position in between half close and half open. The lips are unrounded. It can occur initially and medially only. It will not occur in the final position of the words. For example, end and lend. A. During the articulation of this vowel A, the front of the tongue is raised to a position in between half open and open. The lips are unrounded. This vowel also will occur only in initial and medial position. For example, ant and man. This vowel will not occur in the final position of the words. So, during the articulation of these 4 vowels, that is E, I, A, front of the tongue is raised towards hard palate. So, all these 4 vowels are known as front vowels. Next, A. During the articulation of this vowel, the back of the tongue is in fully open position. So, the lips are unrounded. It can occur initially, medially, and finally in verse. For example, art, cart, and car. Next, A. During the articulation of this vowel A, the back of the tongue is raised to a position in between open and half open. The lips are rounded. During the articulation of this vowel, the lips are in rounded position. It can occur initially and medially only. This vowel will not occur in the final position of the words. For example, ox, box. Next, A. During the articulation of this vowel, back of the tongue is raised to a position in between half close and half open. The lips are in rounded position. This vowel will occur in all three positions of the words. For example, ought, bought, saw. Next, oo. During the articulation of this vowel oo, back of the tongue is raised to a position just above half close. The lips are in rounded position. It can occur medially and finally only. This vowel will not occur in the initial position of the words. For example, put, to. In the production of the vowel oo, back of the tongue is raised to a position almost near close. The lips are in rounded position. It can occur initially, medially and finally in words. For example, ooze, choose, shoe. So, during the articulation of these 5 vowels, back of the tongue is raised towards soft palate. So, all these 5 vowels are known as back vowels. Next, we shall talk about the central vowels. During the articulation of the central vowels, center of the tongue is raised. So, during the articulation of this vowel center of the tongue is raised to a position just below half close position. The lips are unrounded. It can occur initially, medially and finally in words. For example, earn, turn, serve. Next, a. During the articulation of this vowel a, center of the tongue is raised to a position just below half open. This vowel will also occur only initially and medially. This vowel will not occur in the final position of the words. For example, up, cup. During the articulation of the vowel a, center of the tongue is raised just above half open position. This vowel will occur in all 3 positions. For example, agave, police, tailor. So, during the articulation of these 3 vowels, center of the tongue is raised. So, they are known as central vowels. Hereafter, let us describe diphthongs. A diphthong is a vowel glide. That is, diphthong changes its character during its production. So, it starts as one vowel and ends as another. Diphthongs have 2 elements. The first element is strongly pronounced while the second element is slightly pronounced. Diphthongs are equivalent to long vowels in length. No diphthong occurs before n. Diphthongs form glide within a syllable. Now, hereafter, let me describe the position of the tongue and the position of the lips during the production of the diphthongs. Diphthongs generally divided into 2 categories: closing diphthongs and centering diphthongs. During the articulation of closing diphthongs, the glide movement is towards closing position. Hence, they are known as closing diphthongs. During the articulation of this ear, a, ua, the glide movement is towards a, that is centering position. So, they are known as centering diphthongs. First, let us describe closing diphthongs. A. During the production of this diphthong a, the glide movement begins from a position in between front half close and half open and moves in the direction of RPE. So, during the articulation of this vowel, the lips are unrounded for the both elements. So it can occur initially, medially, and finally in words. Example: aim, pain, and play. Next, I. During the articulation of this diphthong I, the glide movement begins from front open position and moves in the direction of RPE. During the articulation of this vowel, the lips are unrounded for the both elements. So it can occur initially, medially, and finally in words. Example: eyes, bite, buy. Oi. During the articulation of this diphthong oi, the glide movement begins from a position in between half open and open and moves in the direction of RPE. The lips are rounded for the first element and rounded for the second element. It can occur initially, medially, and finally in words. For example: oil, boy, boy. Ow. During the articulation of the diphthong ow, the glide movement begins from a position. The glide movement begins from back open position and moves in the direction of RPU. The lips are unrounded for the first element, rounded for the second element. It can occur initially, medially, and finally in words. For example: out, shout, and how. Next, O. During the articulation of this diphthong O, the glide movement begins from a position in between center half close and half open and moves in the direction of RPU. It can occur initially, medially, and finally in verse. For example: oak, joke, slow. So during the articulation of this vowel, for the first elements the lips are unrounded, and for the second element lips are in rounded position. Now let us describe the centering diphthongs. First, ear. During the articulation of this diphthong ear, the glide movement begins from a position between front close and half close and moves in the direction of RPA. It can occur initially, medially, and finally in words. For example: ear, fierce, and fear. Next, air. During the articulation of this diphthong air, the glide movement begins from a position in between front half close and half open and moves in the direction of RPA. The lips are unrounded for the both elements. This vowel will occur in all three positions of the words. For example: air, careful, care. Next, ua. During the articulation of this vowel ua, the glide movement begins from a position in between back close and half close and moves in the direction of RPA. This vowel will not occur in the initial position of the words. It can occur medially and finally only. For example: during, poor. During the articulation of this diphthong, the lips are rounded for the first element and unrounded for the second element. So we have 8 diphthongs in English. My dear students, I think you have understood how vowels and diphthongs are described in English. So, in the next part, we shall try to describe consonants. Thank you very much.